What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am doing a deck that I've been wanting to do for a little while because it's a very, very cool deck idea, and that is one centered around Gallade and Octillery, and most importantly, the new card from Guardians Rising that made this deck work together in ways that it really didn't before, and that is Mallow. Now, before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. It helps out a ton, and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, was trying to think of a cool one, and I realized that Gallade came out in the 4th generation when just a whole bunch of the Sinnoh Pokemon were extensions of previous evolution lines, whether that was like baby Pokemon in the form of like Mime Jr., Happiny, that type of stuff, or whether that was extensions of an evolutionary line in Magmortar and Electivire, or alternate evolutionary lines when it came to like Gardevoir and Snorunt. And I got thinking, why hasn't Pokemon really done anything like that since Generation 4? I mean, Gen 5 and 6, they were completely on their own, like they really were not connected to any previous gens in any way. And then in Gen 7, they did a little bit better, because I was kind of disappointed that Gens 5 and 6 had no connection to previous Pokemon, like not making them any different at all. I did like what Gen 7 did, spicing it up a little bit and adding the Alolan forms, but the question of the day is, which do you guys prefer? Would you like to see previous evolutionary lines extended in one way or another, whether that's another evolution or a baby Pokemon or something like that? Or would you like to see more of the Alolan types of forms? No, I mean, I don't necessarily mean, like, do you want to see more Alolan forms? I just mean, do you want to see more, like, different types, or I guess old Pokemon revamped in a certain way? Not necessarily given an Evo or Prevo, but like redone in a different way to where like Sandslash was ground, now it's Ice Steel, that type of thing. If you had to ask me, honestly, I really want to have the extensions of evolution lines back, because honestly, since I started really playing Pokemon hardcore in Gen 3, I've always thought that Pinsir and Heracross had this unspoken connection. Like, I always felt like there was just something that was missing between them. Like, they should be related in some way, but they weren't. And so one thing I've honestly always wanted was a baby Pokemon, like much in the vein of Tyrogue, how Tyrogue can evolve into any 3 of the Hitmons. I really wanted there to be a baby type a baby bug type Pokemon, can't talk, that would evolve into Pinsir if it was like, would evolve into Pinsir under normal circumstances, but like if it was evolved knowing a fighting type move, then it would evolve into a Heracross. Just something to where those 2 evolutionary lines would be connected. I think that would be really cool, and that's always something that I've wanted but never gotten. So I would really like to see the extensions of evolution lines coming back, whether that be evolutions, pre-evolutions, or even just a split line like with Poliwrath, Politoed, Gallade, Gardevoir, that type of stuff. So yeah, let me know which you prefer in the comments section down below. Do you want to see more Evos and Prevos, or do you want to see more of the Alolan form type of things done with previously introduced Pokemon? Now, onto the deck, like I said, it is centered around Gallade and Octillery, and when I first came across this deck idea, I was admittedly very skeptical, because it was like, okay, I mean, yeah, the format has slowed down a little bit, but Gallade only has 150 HP. So yes, it's very bulky for a non-EX attacker, but it's still really not that bulky to have an entire deck centered around this as your main attacker. And Octillery, yeah, it's kind of cool. With Abyssal Hand, I mean, it's always been a card that's like right on the fringe of relevance. I mean, it's not in every meta deck, but it's a card that, like, if you run it, people are not going to be like, oh, that's not meta. I mean, it's like right on the fringe of being a really good card in the meta. So when they put them together, I mean, yeah, there's the automatic synergy between Premonition and Abyssal Hand, just being able to rearrange the top 5 cards of your deck in any order that you want and then draw them. But really, before Guardians Rising, you could only look at the top 5 cards. So, I mean, yes, that was very strong, and you could control which of those 5 cards you drew with Abyssal Hand, But at the same time, it was kind of like, well, I mean, what if the cards that I want aren't in those 5 cards? I mean, it's only 5 cards out of my entire deck. I mean, okay, again, I'm not saying that that's bad because that's very strong, but only being able to control which of 5 cards you draw really isn't powerful enough to create a whole deck around. That's when Mallow came out. Mallow allows you to search your deck for 2 cards, shuffle your deck, then put those 2 cards on top in any order. This card, I saw it and I was like, oh, that's a really cool card. I mean, that could be pretty solid in some decks, but I really didn't think it would see any competitive use at all. Like, when I saw Mallow, I was like, okay, this is a card for a bunch of gimmick decks, but never will it be seen in a competitive deck. Little did I realize that these 3 would combine to actually do a very solid deck. Now, am I saying this is top tier? No. But am I saying this is a very solid draw engine that is very fun to use and doesn't require, like, a huge amount of, like, EXs, GXs? I mean, yeah, you still have the 2 Lele, but I mean, come on, Lele's kind of a staple at this point. But it's still a very, very cool deck that can get you some good wins and can compete pretty well in some tournaments. I mean, it had a decent showing, I believe, in a couple regionals. Like, it didn't top cut or anything like that, but it still had some pretty solid results for a deck that was so non-meta and unheard of going into it. But yeah, I mean, basically the whole strategy is just attack over and over with Gallade, use Octillery to draw cards that you need, use Mallow to put the cards on top of your deck, that way you draw into those with Octillery. And basically that's your whole draw engine. You'll notice that there aren't very many draw supporters in this deck, because with the combination of Octillery and Mallow, I mean, Mallow... Okay, let me start again. What you're doing with draw supporters is you're trying to draw into pieces that you need in order to get set up. What Mallow does is just like, hey, you don't need to, like, just draw 7 in order to get the pieces you need. I got a Rare Candy and a Gallade right here. Put them on top of your deck. Octillery's going to get those for you. We got you. So really, that's just kind of the whole draw support of this deck, and then that becomes especially strong late game when you're like, okay, I need a VS Seeker for next turn and a Choice Band, or I need like a DCE. Whatever you have left in your deck, Mallow's just like, you know what, I can get those 2, don't worry about it. So it's really very, very powerful draw once you're able to get it going, and then like double, triple premonitions, double abyssal hands. I mean, you really just get whatever you want as soon as you get like 1 Octillery and 1 Gallade set up. Your draw power and your ability to set up from there is just phenomenal. As for the numbers of cards, 424 of Ralts through Gallade, because I mean, Gallade's the main attacker of this deck. It's what really this whole deck is centered around besides Octillery, and considering this is a non-EX attacker that you will be continually throwing into the active spot, I mean, it's going to get knocked out, so you want to have as many as possible. And while you're like, okay, well, am I really going to be running 4 Gallade? Am I really going to go through 4 Gallade in one game? Yeah, you are. You really are with this deck. It's just that consistent and that strong. So 424, 2 Tapu Koko for Flying Flip, just spread around damage, because Sensitive Blade, while it can do 130 for a DCE, which is phenomenal, it just doesn't quite hit hard enough in some situations in order to take the knockouts that you need, even with like Choice Band and Kukui. So Flying Flip can set up different knockouts and stuff like that. Just get 20 damage, spread that damage around for Gallade to be able to Sensitive Blade for knockouts. 2 Tapu Lele, because Lele is amazing, and Lele for a Brigette turn 1 is normally what you're going to be doing with this deck. And then 2-2 of Remoraid and Octillery. Now you might be thinking, well, if Octillery is so necessary for this entire strategy to work, why are you only running 2-2? Well, that's because this deck was so cramped for space to begin with, but also you only truly need 1 Octillery to make this deck work in the way that it's supposed to. Having 2 is simply just gravy, but 1 is the minimum and is really, honestly, all you need. I mean, getting 2, again, like I said, is phenomenal, but 1 is all you need to get things going. Now, I'm going to speed up a little bit because I realize I've been talking for almost 10 minutes now, and you guys just want to see this deck going, but I still want to talk about all the cards. 1 Field Blower to mainly get rid of Garbotoxin, because otherwise Garbotoxin would completely shut this deck down, because we do rely on Premonition and Abyssal Hand in order to get our draw power and set up our board late game. So Garbotoxin shutting off our abilities is devastating. 3 Level Ball to search for Ralts, Kirlia, Remoraid, and Octillery. And you might be thinking, why are you running so many items? Doesn't that make your matchup with Garbodor horrible? Yeah, it does, but considering we're going to be trading non-EX attackers, I'm okay with running items, because if I knock out a Garbodor and he knocks out a Gallade, we each take 1 prize, so the prize trade really isn't that poorly in our favor. Yeah, it takes a little more to get a Gallade out, but anyway, that's beside the point. I mean, it's just kind of a, okay, we'll just trade prizes, that's fine, and Gallade is weak to Psychic anyway, so even just playing 4 items means that Garbodor is going to knock it out, and you can't not play more than 4 items in a lot of situations. So it's like, well, whatever, we'll just go for broke on this. 4 Rare Candy, absolute max number, because you will be recycling Ralts through Gallade, and you're going to need ways of going straight into Gallade late game. So even though there are 2 Kirlia, we're still running absolute max number of Rare Candy in order to go straight from Ralts into Gallade in those situations. 1 Rescue Stretcher, as kind of a non-Karen way of shuffling Pokemon back into our deck and getting Pokemon recursion or getting one into our hand. 2 Special Charge, considering we are only running 4 DCE. We need to shuffle those back in. We need to get those going, especially because these are non-EX attackers that are going to get knocked out relatively easily. So we need a couple ways of recurring DCEs, because you're going to go through more than 4 attackers in one game. 1 Town Map, just a lot of puzzle pieces are necessary in this deck, and being able to see our prize, be able to grab that DCE when we need it, or grab that Rare Candy or whatever, is very, very powerful. 4 Ultra Ball guaranteed get us what we want when we want. 4 VS Seeker let us reuse all of our supporters, and then as for these supporters, for the draw support, for the straight up draw support, we only have 3 N, and that's just shuffle draw. You really don't want to have Juniper, because there are so many puzzle pieces in this deck that you don't want to have to discard 1 Kukui to boost the damage output and draw a couple cards, to where Sensitive Blade might be able to get some knockouts in some situations. 1 Teammates, because our Pokemon are going to get knocked out rather frequently, so we want to be able to just be like, okay, I don't necessarily want to play a Mallow this turn. Here, I'm just going to get 2 cards out of my deck and then still be able to use my Abyssal Hand for more cards. 2 Lysandre, because Lysandre is amazing, and yeah, I mean, just having 2 is almost necessary in some cases, but 2 keeps it from being prized when you need it. 1 Karen as a way of shuffling Pokemon back into the deck. 1 Hex Maniac shuts off our opponent's abilities, so after we use all of our abilities, shut off our opponent's abilities, slow them down a little bit. 2 Brigette, just because when I've been playing with this deck, I've had a Brigette prized early on, and that's really set me back heavily, so having 2 Brigette just keeps us from being too susceptible to having it prized. And then 2 Mallow, I know a lot of different lists run 3. I actually found that 2 is perfect, just because you're going to be using Brigette early game, Lysandre Teammates or Kukui late game, and Mallow's just kind of the setup card that you use in this deck. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's incredibly important and vital to this strategy, but running 3 I think is a little bit overkill. I'm running 2 just because, I mean, it's more of a mid-early game type of card. 3 Choice Band let us boost the damage output of Gallade. 2 Float Stone let Octillery have free retreat, because otherwise we'd have to attach a DCE to it to retreat, and we don't want to do that. And then 4 DCE, because I mean, that's how we attack, just with those 4 DCE. But anyway, I've rambled for way too long. Let's go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Phoenix 689 with a... I didn't even fully see what it was. I know I saw some water in there, saw some psychics, so honestly no idea what my opponent's running. We do lose the coin flip, which is very unfortunate, because this deck really does like going first. On the bright side, I do have a pretty nice... Yeah, I do have a pretty nice hand. Because what I can do... Okay, so we're up against a Pre-Marina GX deck, which actually could be kind of problematic due to Rough Seas putting Pre-Marinas out of 2-hit KO range of Sensitive Blades. That could be a little bit difficult to deal with. I mean, on the bright side, we are getting an absolute ton of mulligan cards, so I am completely okay with this. I can always just Ultra Ball for... Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of plays that I can make this turn. Although my opponent does, like I said, get to go first, which is slightly unfortunate. But let's go ahead and get 3 mulligan cards. I even get a Lele, so that is just perfect. I can save the Ultra Ball for next turn. I mean, really, I just have everything I could want right now in my hand. I mean, granted, I'd rather just draw into, like, Koko, Ralts, Remoraid, Remoraid, or something like that. Like, I prefer just to draw into all that, because that'd be pretty nice as well. But in this case, it's In this case, I'm okay with it, because my opponent does just go ahead and attach an energy to the Palkia. Okay, please don't end me. I know that's exactly what you're going to do, and that's the smart play, but please don't. Okay, my opponent's going to end me. So, my dream was able to last for a little bit, but unfortunately my opponent did make the smart play. Who actually does that anymore? Who makes the smart play? But I do get put back down to 6 cards, and they are atrocious. Oh, thank the Lord. Thank the Lord that I was able to draw into an end, because otherwise my hand was just horrible to where I wasn't able to do anything at all. Okay, so this is interesting. I'm going to go ahead and just Trainer's Mail, and I'm actually holding on to the Level Ball, because I have a couple plays that I can make. I can Level Ball for an Octillery. Then I can Mallow, put a Rare Candy and a Ralts on top of my deck, and then use Octillery to draw into those. And then, yeah, that's the play I'm going to go for. So I'm going to Level Ball for an Octillery, Mallow to put Ralts, well, Mallow to put at least a Rare Candy for sure on the top of the deck. I might put a DCE as well. We'll have to see what I top deck and if it's kind of worth it. He does start powering up the Articuno, so okay, I even top deck the Rare Candy. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. So what I'm gonna do, Level Ball for the Octillery, like I said, play that sucker down right there, and wow, I mean, my top decks are on point this game. Let's go ahead and Rare Candy up my Ralts, grab that Gallade, and then let's Mallow. Want a Mallow? Yeah, of course I want a Mallow right now, because I can't Gallade. So let's go ahead and put a Ralts and probably a DCE on top, that way I can attack. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Do I want a Premonition now? I'm gonna Premonition after I get everything down, that way I can control what I top deck next turn. Let's play the Ralts down, play the Choice Band onto that Ralts, play the DCE onto the Gallade, and then let's Premonition, set up my draw for next turn. Well, that's actually pretty nice. So let's grab another Mallow, grab a Ralts, and then just... Does it really matter what I put the stuff in, what order I put the stuff in? Not particularly, as long as I draw into the Mallow, because odds are I'm probably going to just shuffle my deck anyway to where Mallow is really the only one out of those 5 I will most likely draw into. And I hit the Palkia for 160 damage, which is nice. It's not an Oko, but it's nice. Let's see what my opponent's going to do. Yeah, there's the Rough Seas, so I mean, that's another reason why I wasn't even remotely entertaining the idea of attacking with Tapu Koko. Because even if I went for Flying Flip, then single Rough Seas coming down means that all of that attack damage goes away except for on the Lele. So I would have hit the Lele for 20 damage, which, I mean, while it could have set it up for a potential knock, like a potential Choice Banded Sensitive Blade later in the game, I mean, I would rather just hit the Palkia, put it in 2-hit KO range, and go from there. So my opponent is starting to get the Articuno powered up, which is a little bit kind of sort of scary. If he's able to damage my Gallade enough, and wow. Hashtag top decks on point. Holy crap. He is going to send out the Articuno, which is a little bit of a problem, actually. I mean, I'll be able to get a second Gallade up, which is amazing, as always. But I think... Pretty sure he has a resistance to fighting, so that's going to be kind of bad. Luckily, he does only hit me for 60 damage, which is great for me. And I even get a Karen as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just start healing damage off my Koko, because why the heck not? Let's get rid of the Rough Seas. Basically, I'm trying to play my hand low. That way I can get... trying to play my hand low. That way I can get the most possible cards off of Octillery. Let's Level Ball grab Honestly, let's just grab another Ralts, get that thing set up. And then I could play the other Koko, but, I mean, I'm not going to be using the one that I have on the field anyway. It's Premonition. Okay, this is good. This is good, so let's... Actually, no. So the VS Seeker first, obviously, but... Do I want to put the Level Ball before that? I think so. Yeah, let's put the Level Ball before both Gallades. So let's go ahead and do that. That way, when I Octillery, I can go ahead and draw into the Level Ball and the Gallade, or the Level Ball and the VS Seeker, which will allow me to grab another, probably, do I want to just grab another Remoraid, or do I want to grab a Kirlia? I think let's grab another Remoraid, because I kind of want to Rare Candy into an Octillery, or into a Gallade with my Ralts later. And then let's go ahead and VS Seeker grab the N. I mean, I could have grabbed the Mallow, but at this point there was really no particular use doing that. And wow, so I draw into some very nice stuff again, get another DCE, I'll be able to have another Gallade powered up in the background. And we'll be able to... Yeah, we'll be able to smack this Articuno for some very nice damage. Let's go ahead and put the Lysandre on top of the deck. No. How do I want to do this? Let's put the Gallade on top of the deck, maybe. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. That way I can draw into it next turn. Yeah. And then let's Sensitive Blade. Hit the Articuno, not quite for a knockout, just 10 damage short. I mean... that 130, while it's a magic number in a lot of cases, a fighting 130 just falls short in a couple instances. So yeah, my opponent even has their own Octillery set up now, which keeps them from being too susceptible to an N, and gets a Primarina up. That Primarina, that's going to be difficult to deal with. So I'm trying to map out my prizes. So I'll have to knock out... Palkia is going to be... Palkia is 100% going to be something, a Pokemon that I have to target down. Like, I have to... It has to be 2 prizes right there, because taking out 2 Primarina will be too difficult. Lele is not in range of being knocked out in one hit, so it would take 2 Sensitive Blades in order to knock that thing out. Palkia is already in range, and I just have to take out Palkia before he gets completely healed by Rough Seas. Otherwise, that early Sensitive Blade will literally just be nothing. And then I'll probably have to take out 1 Primarina. I'll either have to take out a Primarina or a Tapu Lele. Odds are it's going to be Primarina, because I'm going to want to have... I'm going to want to use my supporter on something other than Lysandre for that turn. So it's going to be this Articuno, Palkia, Primarina, and probably Octillery. So my opponent does get 4 heads. I mean, literally all he needed was 2, and after that first Tri-Edge, it's like, well, I mean, that's kind of expected at that point. Does take 2 prizes, and I can't really end him out of it, just because, I mean, that's kind of what he wants. So I can potentially get another Gallade in play this turn. Let's go ahead and Rescue Stretcher. Do I want to go ahead and do that? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Shuffle those back into the deck. I know that there's only 2 of them, but I might as well, just so I have the attackers up and ready. Let's VS Seeker for Mallow. That way I can grab the Rare Candy. Well, Rare Candy and then probably something else. Well, not probably something else. Yes, something else. Probably just a Ralts. That way I can keep streaming these attackers. Do I want to do a Teammates? No, let's go ahead and do the Mallow for now. Let's Abyssal Hand. Draw into 3 cards. There it is. There's a Rare Candy and Ralts. That is perfect. So let's go ahead and evolve up this Ralts on the bench into a Gallade. Play the DCE onto that sucker. And then let's actually Premonition, because I'll be able to control what I top deck next turn, as well as what cards I'm getting right now. I mean, if my opponent doesn't disrupt my hand. So let's go ahead and put those 4 on top of the deck. Have a draw supporter, or just at least a supporter in my hand right now. There we go. And this engine is incredibly strong. Like, this is a very, very strong draw engine. I can even premonition now, once again, to change once again what I top deck into. Yeah, there's the Teammates, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that just so I have access to it when I need it. And, I mean, at first I was skeptical of this list, but the more I play it, the more I realize that with the combination of Mallow and Octillery, you're able to stream Gallades pretty well. And unfortunately, I can't look at my discard pile while I look at my prizes. So that's a little bit unfortunate right there. I was able to see the Rare Candy on top. But I think the play is to get a Special Charge in case my opponent is able to knock out my Gallade this turn. Yeah, because then I'll be able to put both DCEs back into the deck. Yeah, because then I'll be able to put 2 DCs back into the deck, get the maximum use out of that, all that good stuff. At this point, oh, Manaphy's there. I might be able to take a knockout on Manaphy as well. Okay, so I don't have to knock out a Primarina at this point. My opponent playing that Manaphy is actually huge for me, because now my prizes are all on the board in the condition that the board is in right now. I have a knockout on Palkia, I have a knockout on Manaphy, I have a knockout on Octillery. So there are my 5 prizes right there. Like, my 5 prizes are on the board, like they're sitting there, they're ready to be taken. My opponent didn't even disrupt my hand, so I do have the Lysandre. And this is, like, this late game is exactly why this deck, or exactly why the draw engine of this deck is so powerful. Because say I need a Lysandre. If you don't top deck into that, or get lucky on the Octillery late game, you're going to be in a pretty bad spot. But with Gallade, you can control what you draw into with Octillery. And Octillery is non-supported draw support, so you're even able to control what you draw from there. So I do draw into the Teammates. That's, I mean, I knew that I was going to do that. Let's Ultra Ball. Get rid of the N and the Hex Maniac to grab a Kirlia. Yeah. Get rid of the N and Hex Maniac, grab a Kirlia. That way I can potentially get another Gallade set up in at a, well, next turn ideally. I'll be able to Rough Seize up my Tapu Koko. And then let's Premonition. Ah, there's a Rare Candy. There's a Mallow, Kirlia. I mean, it really doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna go ahead and draw into the Mallow with my Octillery. And then I'm 100% Lysandre this turn. Like, there's no reason I should not Lysandre. Unless... Nah, nope. Lysandre's a play. And I'm prioritizing Palkia because that's a thing that can potentially get healed up. Well, Palkia can get healed up out of range of a Sensitive Blade. Let's put the Kukui up first, because that actually allows me to one-shot Lele if I'm able to draw into that. So that's just another way of... yeah, let's just have the Kukui in my hand, have it available, and then let's Sensitive Blade, knock out the Palkia, take 2 prizes. And yeah, like I was saying, the Kukui is a way of being able to one-shot the Lele. That way I don't necessarily need a Lysandre. Like, I can save my VS Seeker for something else later. But regardless, I was able to knock out the Palkia, put myself down to 3 prizes in a phenomenal spot in this game, honestly. He will be able to send up the Primarina and knock out my Gallade. I mean, that's just kind of how it's going to go at this point. He's going to Choice Band it up. It doesn't matter. I am 100% not playing down my my 2 prize attackers at this point, just because I need to make my opponent play the odd prize game. Although then again, I say that now, but I'll probably try to Lele for a... Well, I'll either try to Lele for Teammates or Kukui late game. So, okay, I'm not saying that I won't. I'm leaving the option open to where I can draw into them late game. And, okay, so once again, top deck's on point. I'll be able to put the DCEs right back into the deck with Special Charge. And this is why the draw engine is as ridiculously powerful as it is. So my opponent ended me down to 3, which normally, even with an Octillery, it's just like, okay, well, I'm only at 5 cards. Well, first of all, Octillery is amazing for that. But then, the fact that I can control what I top deck with Octillery with Gallade is even stronger. So let's go ahead and Premonition. The Ultra Ball is actually really nice. So let's go ahead and... yeah, let's do that. I'm getting the Tapu Koko because I can simply Ultra Ball it away. Actually, let's put the Lysandre up there. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Make sure that I can get a knockout this turn, bring up the Manaphy or the Octillery. Let's Abyssal Hand. I have another one to work with. This way I can Ultra Ball, get rid of the Karen and the Tapu Koko to grab a Gallade. That way I have another Premonition to work with, because I mean I already used one, and I might as well use that to top deck into something good. Let's retreat into the non-banded Gallade. Yeah, gonna retreat into the non-banded Gallade in order to knock out the Manaphy, because that way if he sends up Lele, all I need is a Kukui in order to be able to knock that thing out, and I want to keep the Choice Band. So let's go ahead and Premonition right now. What do we have? We got a Kirlia, we got a VS Seeker, Brigette, N, and Ultra Ball. So first things first, let's put the 2 useless cards on top, followed by the Ultra Ball and the VS Seeker. So I'm drawing in 4 cards off of this. I can't play Special Charge just yet because, I mean, you know, the fact that I didn't want to just shuffle my deck after rearranging the top 5 cards that way. So let's Ultra Ball, get rid of those things. Okay. So, alright, that's fine. There's a Lele. I'll go ahead and grab that, and then at this point, like, yeah, I know that I'm gonna draw into... actually, you know what? I had the Ultra Ball anyway, so it shuffled my deck, meaning that my Premonition of the N on the top is just useless. So yeah, let's go ahead and just put the Lele, grab the Lele, and then, ooh, I have Ralts and 2 Leles. Well, this is nice. So I have Teammates, I have... huh. So I actually don't think there's a way of me getting another Gallade, so I should have probably kept the Kirlia. But I mean, at that point, I just wanted to thin my deck out a little bit. I mean, it's honestly fine at this point. It's not too big of a deal. And my opponent does have 2 Primarinas fully set up. He has a Lele set up, and as long as he doesn't... well, there's the end. Actually, I think I can get another Gallade up in the right scenario. So I top deck Mallow, which is nice. But I mean, a VS Seeker for Lysandre wins me the game. Like, just plain and simple, VS Seeker for Lysandre wins me the game, because I'll be able to knock out the... I'll be able to bring up the Octillery or one of the Pop Leos and knock them out. Bubble Beat, not Noko, only does 130 damage, which, I mean, is still pretty nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and Premonition, see if I can... if I see the VS Seeker, I win. Okay. So let's grab the Ralts, the Kukui, and the Gallade. Yeah. So the Ralts for sure, because that's a card that I can just go ahead and play down to get out of my deck. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I don't think... yeah, it's going to have to be a pretty... it's going to have to be a pretty spectacular... actually, not necessarily. I mean, okay, so I have to have it... I have to have the draw within the VS Seeker within these 5. I do not have it, unfortunately. But yeah, there's the Rare Candy, so I will be able to get up another Gallade if I so choose, which is kind of cool. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and Abyssal Hand into Float Stone. Yeah. Let's go ahead and Abyssal Hand into Float Stone, because, I mean, it really... just another card that I can play down. I can Mallow to where I top deck a VS Seeker. I mean, right now, I really don't need any cards from my deck in my hand. Like, I mean, obviously, VS Seeker is the only thing that I truly need, and that's to win me the game. So the fact that I'm just having Mallow basically wait until next turn. Actually, you know what? There's 2 VS Seekers. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and force my opponent to end me if he wants to. I'm going to go ahead and force my opponent to end me if he wants to keep from losing this turn. So let's actually just Float Stone up the other Octillery. Might as well, just one less card in the deck. And now my opponent knows for a fact that I have a VS Seeker and the win in my hand, so he has to end me. Well, if he does, there's 2 VS Seekers in my deck. Like, 22% of my deck is VS Seekers. Odds are from an N, well, actually, a little bit less because of the cards in my hand. But odds are I'm going to see one of my VS Seekers through Premonition or Abyssal Hand next turn, because, I mean, all I have to do is Abyssal Hand, and I'll immediately see 4 cards. And then I can Premonition. So I mean, basically, I'll be able to see 9 cards of my deck next turn, guaranteed. And hopefully one of those is a VS Seeker. I mean, there would literally just be 4 cards that I wouldn't see, and if both my VS Seekers are in there right then, I would just kind of be sad. So my opponent is starting to get a Popplio powered up in the background. I mean, really, again, that's not a huge deal at all. I do have the win in my hand right now with the Gallade. All I have to do is just Lysandre up a Popplio or the Octillery. Odds are I'll probably Lysandre up the Octillery because that's the thing that's allowing my opponent to keep playing well and making these types of plays. So he is just going to retreat into his other Primarina and Bubble Beat. That is fine. He did not disrupt my hand, so I will be able to win the game on this turn. And yeah, I hope you guys saw just how ridiculously powerful of a draw engine Gallade is. Let's go ahead and VS Seeker for that Lysandre, be able to bring up the Octillery and win the game with a Sensitive Blade. But yeah, once again, I mean, I really hope you guys saw just how insanely powerful of a draw engine this can be. I mean, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and then you pick out which ones you want to draw, and you draw into them, and then after that, you can use Mallow to put 2 cards that you for sure want on the top of your deck and then draw into them with Octillery. I mean, this was just such an awesome draw engine. I mean, it's easily the most unique draw engine in the game. And, yeah, this is an awesome deck that's actually pretty solid. I mean, I know it's not like top tier or anything, but it's a pretty solid and very, very fun deck that I encourage you guys to try out if you have the resources to do so. But, either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.